everything like that. How's the? Can you see me okay? How's
Oh,
that?
I
Yeah.
haven't even turned on video.
Yeah, I figured what better way? I've already started a little bit here. I've got a little bit of Buffalo Trace in here.
Yeah, the events of the afternoon kept me from drinking, so
Mm-hmm.
I've elected to the coffee beverage. So
I understand. Um, yeah, I've never suffered any broken bones myself, but I can imagine. I sprung my ankle real bad one time, uh, but that was like doing kid shit, you know.
yeah, I've sprained my ankles well over 20 times growing up playing basketball. Same, I've broke my more fingers than I have anything. My fingers are actually kind of crooked and twisted, uh, mainly because of because of that. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, my cousin, they were throwing a medicine ball back and forth, you know, and gets the finger right here, and this whole knuckle slid over top this back knuckle back here. You just had to pull it straight again. Ugh.
oh yeah,
Nope.
I've had my knuckle that connects right to the hand.
Yeah.
I've had it come out of place and go above. Oh, it was rough.
Man, I've been real fortunate with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, when you do that, just pulling on it don't fix it. Somebody's got to get in behind it and actually push it forward and down
Yeah.
to get it back in place. It was bad.
Uh, yeah. Yeah, man. So I guess we'll just jump right in. I guess. Tell me a little bit about yourself. This is one of my coworkers, currently Josh Ratliff, perhaps a forever DM, perhaps, maybe, possibly.
Definitely a forever DM. If my players have anything to say about it.
I understand that. Um, I was playing another group with Jared and them, but school ended up getting in the way of that, not necessarily allowing me enough time to really sit and plot a course to really enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So, what started this whole D&D journey for you?
Uh, oh man, I guess uh, kind of my first introduction to D&D was actually not D&D, but to
Oh,
the D20 system back in high school. I had a couple of friends who invited me over one night and said, "Hey, we're playing some VTM, Vampire the Masquerade." So me being the person, a friend,
yeah.
I went over and tried it out, and I was like, "What? What the hell is this?" And after that night, I never thought anything of it. Being a teenager at that time, the only thing I cared about was sports, getting outside, doing dumb stuff, and chasing girls. So,
Yeah.
uh, I, I've been a geek my entire life, a nerd per se, but yeah, I had other priorities at that time.
Yeah.
Uh, Much later down the line, actually, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago. One of my close friends, we were talking one night. He's like, "Man, you need to get into D&D," and so he's like, if you're interested, he's like, "I'll run a game, and everybody will just come up and play." So,
Yeah.
uh, and I think there was four of us that night. That actually the DM and then three of us
Yeah.
that sat down and played. I had no idea what I was doing. I literally walked in there with an idea for a character, based on basically a World of Warcraft character I
Hey,
played, a little
that
dwarf.
that was probably one of the biggest inspirations. And then now that I've been so engrossed in this hobby, like going back and looking at video games like that, like especially World of Warcraft, and you see the where everything kind of ties together. It's like, oh well, I kind of see where they might have pulled that idea.
Yeah, man. I played WoW since came to be pretty much, and I've been going back and playing the classic stuff.
Well,
And
I did too, especially since they announced Wrath. I went and
yeah,
I had to boost me a character just to be able to make a Death Knight, and I'm like, okay, this is what it was like back then. Because back then, during Wrath and those things, I played a hunter or shaman. I didn't really do any melee type characters. Of course, I didn't have this little gem right here either. I don't know if you can see this.
Oh yeah.
Razor Naga. I've had it forever. It still works.
I've actually went through multiples of those. I went through those and the World of Warcraft one that was released. I don't by Razor. I don't remember. I went through that thing. I think I had 2 of them. I'd own another one if I could find them, but they're insanely expensive.
I can imagine. It's just like anything else. Me and my wife went. Well, I say yard sailing, but we kind of just went snooping around to see if I could find anything cool. Because I would love to have like one of those Victorian era chairs that's all crushed velvet and everything, with a high back, and just to have a DM chair, just to kind of sink back in, relax in. But
oh yeah, kind of like a throne.
Yeah, something like that. But
throne style.
Something that is incredibly uncomfortable. That is really just there for show. Maybe dress it up with like some skulls or something. I don't know. Maybe that's the inner Matt Mercer talking to me. My experience with D&D, really, I was always kind of peripheral to it. I had some good friends and stuff that played it in high school, 3rd edition, obviously. But it was more, I don't know, at the time, I was kind of like you in the aspect that, I had karate, I just really got my license, my first taste of freedom. And I was out keeping the roads hot during that time.
I think we all did that.
Yeah.
There was nothing else to do at that time,
man.
I
know. Gas was like $1.85 or something like that. It was the thing to do. Go out and cruise a night and hope that you could stay away from the cops.
If you weren't a town rat, man, you don't know. I don't know what you were doing back then.
Yeah. Or doing burnouts in an obscure parking lot somewhere.
Going on strip jobs and getting vehicles stuck. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that kind of reminds me of the story. My cousin, he had this habit of every time he would get a new vehicle that he would, that's the first thing we'd have to do is just see if we could go get it stuck. So he had this brand new Silverado diesel crew cab, and it was, I think at the time it was like a 2003, 2004 model. And we took it back on a strip job, and we came upon this trailer that was completely camouflaged and everything. Had like the roof and everything was covered. And I was like, we need to get out of here right now.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, let's go. Yeah. Good times.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah. So, what is, I probably already know the answer to this, but what is your favorite series in the D&D space, as far as if you could sit and play something every week, what would you bring to the table?
Well, I'll be honest, I haven't had a lot of experience with things like Greyhawk and Baldur's Gate, or
I haven't either.
Actually, pretty much anything in Faerun, I really haven't ran anything there. But of course, as you know, my favorite is Ravenloft.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I like it because it's a huge sandbox.
Yeah.
There is an insane amount of material out there outside of 5th edition. Back AD&D, 2nd edition, gosh, I can't remember how many modules, but it's an insane amount of books and material, lore. It's out there.
Yeah, it's pretty vast. I mean, even from just the stuff that I've been able to see in passing on Reddit or on YouTube, people talking about just Ravenloft in general, as to how vast, or like the domains of dread, or let's see, I'm trying to think, anything really with the Outer Realms, it can get pretty wacky. Just like that podcast I was telling you about the other day, Dumpstat, and I completely forgot to send that over to you. But he gets really weird. He doesn't go like Spelljammer weird with it, but it's still, you get that kind of creative, creepy vibe with it and everything. And it seems like it would be a pretty fun space to be in.
Yeah, man, I love that horror aspect of it. That's what gets me going.
Mhm.
And if once you get into reading into some of the older modules, you'll start to realize that some of them are based on some of the old monster legends and some of like the old Universal monsters like Frankenstein. I think
Yeah.
uh, there's ones called Adam's Wrath or something like. I don't know. It's basically a Frankenstein story.
Mhm.
And of course, Barovia and Strahd is kind of more the Dracula story of things. So, but yeah, I just love that setting. You could do some interesting things with it. I think one of the things I like about Ravenloft the most is where each one of the realms kind of come and go that's in there, or the domains, I guess.
Yeah.
But kind of come and go. Everything is kind of set at a different time period, kind of. Not really, but I mean, you might have a steampunk the next you might have more old world fantasy. It's wild. You never know what you're going to run into when you go to a different domain.
Yeah. I really like the aspect. Just it's like they give you this huge sandbox and just all of these ideas to go along with it to accompany it. And just as well as I do, you can have a plan as to what you would like your players to experience, and then the dice are always telling the story. It seems like um, I don't necessarily like to railroad if I know that if I'm sitting there actively thinking about something, it's like, man, they're really going to enjoy this. But if I kind of just push them along, it's going to take away from the things they want to do. But then again, you're also just one bad joke away from it all. Just I want to be the mayor now. Well, why do you want to be the mayor? I don't know. I don't like that guy. Okay.
Well, I guess when it comes to railroading, you sometimes you kind of got to railroad,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you kind of have to give the illusion and let your players think that, hey, we're getting to do what we want to do, and
Mm-hmm.
then you got to creatively figure out how to get them back on track without just being like, you got to go do this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I try to leave little breadcrumbs and stuff like that, which my players are very investigative type people. uh, they like combat, but
Mm-hmm.
they like puzzles. They like traps. They like very intricate fights. So
Yeah.
they're very investigative.
Yeah. My players, they're not so much on the RP side. I've got one or two that'll really jump in there and kind of play things along. But for the most part, my players are just happy if I stick them in a dungeon filled with stuff to fight. But every great once in a while, you at least have a session where something amazing happens. And the whole table screams out in joy or in pain.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I try my best. Like if I'm sitting down, I'll take like stuff from Pinterest or Reddit or some crazy idea that someone's had, kind of mold it and shape it and see how I can fit it in where I've got my story going. Especially if I'm doing like some kind of homebrew. If I'm doing Curse of Strahd, for example, my players hate me to an extent. It's like, well, we're the whole premise. Spoiler alert for anyone who's listening is that you're supposed to get these artifacts, right?
Oh yeah.
To assist you in the fight with Strahd. Okay? It's at the early levels you can encounter Strahd, as often as the book would allow you to do, or as often as you would like to. He can be as present or as, absent as you would like. But there's always that opportunity at times whenever you can sneak in a moment where you can really push that limit as to what, I guess, without outright killing them, to kind of build the story up as to you're fighting like this great entity of this area, and here's just how powerful he is. For instance, fifth level fireball into Church Valaki.
All right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I like the Ravenloft setting. I'm not good at doing the whole horror aspect of it. It's hard for me to embellish my words in such a way that really grasp them in that particular space to kind of say, this is really scary. You should be real afraid right now. It's
Right.
like, oh, okay.
I've watched a whole lot of horror films. I'm a huge horror fanatic.
Yeah.
If you could just see my basement, you would understand. It's just memorabilia everywhere. But yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. It's hard to display that the fear and horror that's there, especially putting it into words. I try to be very descriptive of things. I kind of get more gory than I do fearful, or I do something that's just totally powerful. One of the things that you that's hard to think is, oh, hey, you got these adventurers. They're, sometimes they're heroes. Heck, if you've let your characters get up to level 10 plus, then they've seen some shit.
They've seen some shit. Yeah, exactly.
Nevertheless, it's hard to make them scared. But if you haven't looked into the horror mechanics and stuff for Ravenloft, it is very interesting. And then you can also work in the madness part of Ravenloft, which is a beautiful thing.
I think that is brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. We have a character that is in our main Ravenloft campaign that is definitely going down a path of madness, and it is interesting.
Yeah,
that's what happens whenever you burn down a tower full of kids.
Yep. Oh, that was amazing too. The way how I played that entire thing was after Death House, the black carriage scene. Strahd comes up, welcomes him to his land, and offers all of its bounty and benefits, and he offers them a drink. And from the time that they all took a drink of that wine, that I let them go on into the original village of Barovia and do some of the storyline and everything. But then I said, you see an old woman start stuffing kids in a bag. I'm like, oh, hey, old lady. You might not do that, or else we'll have to, kick your ass. So that escalates, and they end up finding out where the tower is, or windmill is. Spoilers again. And I have them go through this entire thing thinking they were saving all these children from getting what happens in that particular section of Barovia. But I kind of flipped it on its head that these were just some innocent old women that were making some pies, just trying to better everything. And they're like, I kind of replay the moments and everything as they're going through, and they're like shoving old ladies into the grinder and everything. But then I said, after that was done, they come out of the tower. It's like, okay, we did a good thing. And they're surrounded by mist. Mist kind of pushes them in. Surrounded by werewolves. Werewolves tear at the throat. And they're back in front of the carriage again. And they're like, did we just kill a bunch of old women? Yeah, it's like, yes, you did.
Oh, yeah.
But, it was, I don't know. I think I could have played that better. Have you ever had those moments when it's like, I messed up.
100%. Almost every single session.
Yeah.
It's crazy because, it's organic and everything's kind of on the spot. You can plan as much as you want to, but you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And sometimes...
Oh, I think I lost you a little bit there. You still with me? Technical difficulties, kids. Hold on. We're going to get him back. So, all of you who are watching this video, if you have the time, please, down in the comment section, tell me a story about one of your campaigns where if you're a DM and you've kind of messed up in the story, or if you've had an opportunity to make something better that the story is kind of like, really not feeling it. Just something to kind of liven up your play or something, because that's important. That's why we're all here. We're all here to have fun, laugh, tell jokes, whatever. It's about being present at the table and being with people who you choose to surround yourself with. And the occasional sip of alcohol, or, food, pizza, yeah, that thing. Hey!
Oh my God. Y'all love it.
Oh, man.
How you doing work at home, man?
Well, I mean,
So, just so you know, Windows 10 does not like FireWire drivers.
really?
Oh no.
Huh. I never would have guessed. I can't imagine Windows 11 being that any better, though.
No, it actually the FireWire architecture stopped with Windows 7.
Yeah. I was gonna say, because I like any of the new equipment that we're getting in, like none of it has FireWire whatsoever.
Yeah, my whole sound system that's connected to my computer is all FireWire.
Yeah, I gotcha. Let me. So I have this D&D chat on my Facebook channel. I want to pull this up on Discord here. You tell me what you would do in this particular situation. You see that okay?
Let me make it big.
That's a difficult choice, man. If this gives you any kind of uh, insight as to what my group is like.
I'll honestly, it's according to what kind of character I'm playing.
Mhm.
Me personally, I would confront him and politely ask for a glass.
Yeah, sometimes, you got to get some of that. What is it on Star Wars green milk or whatever it is?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. The fun that's available in a group chat filled with a bunch of intellectuals. I mean that in the purest form. So, man, I guess going back to what I've got here, let me pull this up. Minis. I know that you are, I've seen your work, I admire your work. You are one amazing artist when it comes to not only like sets and planning, but maps and, just the amount of detail alone that you put into this whole, I don't know, I guess what you're doing is something that's real, that you can't recreate in like a VTT sort of scenario where it's like, oh, well, here's a castle. Well, yeah, that's a 3D rendering of a castle. But, whenever you actually have your miniature and you have for instance, if you don't mind to elaborate on what you spent over a year on.
Oh yeah. So I guess that has been the biggest project that I've
Yeah.
done so far. I built the entire Castle Ravenloft, playable. The thing turned out to be about, oh God, roughly probably more like 5 feet by 4 feet. And tall wise on my table, it probably the tallest peak probably stands at about 7 foot. So it's a monster, man. But I still haven't got to use the thing really. I got to use the bottom floor. That's
Yeah.
about as far as I've got to use. But yeah, it was a fun project. I learned a lot doing that project. What I learned doing that actually made a lot of the things that I crafted later on much easier and I was able to do things a lot faster. So
Yeah. Well, you mind if I plug this real quick? I'm going to throw it up on my screen here. A picture
for
of the Castle Ravenloft in its entirety here. Well, mostly in its entirety. I think you got some things lifted off the top just to be able to view it. Like, that is absolutely stunning, man. Just incredible.
yeah, I think there's actually a video on there too. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I still haven't built a roof for the main top of it. I don't know if I ever will. Maybe I don't know. I might revisit that project one day, but as of right now, it is where it is. So
Yeah, absolutely incredible, man. Just the amount of detail and everything that you put in everything really shines through your love for the hobby and everything. And if I'm being 100% honest, like, I didn't really step into this, sort of area, had it not, well, until I seen, for instance, the stuff that you had made, to hear everyone that I work with, pretty much with the exception of like a few people, seems like, that don't play D&D. And I have you and Jack and Audrey to really think, for my inspiration to join in. And I've never had something that kind of brings everybody together for all of us to sit down and, like, everyone sits around a table, everyone shares a story together, and it's really it's a special thing. But I listen to Critical Role. I've listened to other podcasts and stuff. I think one of them was the Rusty Quill. I think this is like one based out of Europe, out of the UK. But it's more. I really, really think that Matthew Mercer puts a certain amount of expectations as to, like, if, say, we were to do this with a group of strangers, it's like, welcome, and you have all this intricate storyline and, every sort of miniature or resource available, and not to mention, he's just a damn good DM to boot all. But
definitely.
yeah, and he's I mostly, from my point of view, I mostly only listened to Vox Machina, which was phenomenal. Some of their earlier stuff, I haven't really gotten into the second campaign, or I've listened to a little bit of the third campaign, which, I'm sure it's good. I just don't necessarily have the time to do so. Would you ever consider doing something like that?
I actually, yeah. I'm right now in the process of trying to get a setup to be able to record some of our sessions. I was going to do it our last session, but my Amazon failed me, and Prime didn't get here on time. So, but anyway, yeah, I think the next time we're going to go ahead and record the session, and then.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stream it or anything like that as of right now. I'll be throwing it on YouTube or something and kind of letting people see it. I'm a little worried for people to, come out there and critique me as a DM.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's you listen to everything that people put on YouTube, or like they're like, don't just, if you're gonna do YouTube, don't read the comments. just don't.
Just ignore, yeah.
You can read 100 or 1,000 even good comments, and then there's just that one asshole, in the background. It's like, you suck at life, you're a shitty DM or whatever. It's like, done. You know what? Screw that guy. But I digress. But it's been quite a joyous thing for me, and I have you all to thank for that, and I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. Like, I get to express so much of my creativity. I get to, obviously, me and my wife, we get together and we paint the miniatures, and she helps me out with some of the storyline stuff and all that. But it's,
I can get your wife to paint miniatures with you.
Well, it's like this. if we got, like, for instance, I don't know if you do this or not, but I'll have like painting parties where everyone just kind of gets together. If they get a new mini or something that they design on Hero Forge, for instance, which is not a sponsor, but hopefully that's where we're going with this. So, they bring their miniature up, everyone sits down, and I'm obviously sitting over here where I'm at. I've got like my little station and everything, and everyone just gets together and paints, sets, has a good time. We get some food or whatever, kind of like similar to what we do in D&D, except everyone's just kind of shooting the crap and everything. So as far as whenever you're planning a session, if you don't mind if I bend your ear on this for a little bit, what's your process in that?
Gosh.
Are we talking like...
It's chaos. That's exactly what it is. Basically what I'll do beforehand, sometimes I'll read the entire, a lot of people say, read your entire campaign. If you ever written campaign, read the whole thing. That way, the beginning and the end, everything in between.
Yeah.
I do that sometimes. Sometimes I skip around. For me, I kind of pick a starting point, and then I kind of let the players kind of evolve where we're going. So in that aspect, I kind of try to plan what I foresee is the possibilities of things that can happen. Of course, I get my random encounters, my minis, and all that stuff set up and ready to go. I'll get my big baddies if we're going to have some major fights.
Yeah.
I'll get all that stuff ready to go, whether or not they go out and they hit them, whatever. And honestly, that's where I get into a lot of trouble. We were talking about earlier about trying to railroad your players, and they're like, "No, we got a better idea." That's kind of where I was getting at with it. Is I get in trouble a lot whenever they decide to do things that I hadn't really planned for, and then I'll start just in the heat of the moment with dialogue. I end up saying things, and I'm like, "Oh crap!"
Same thing.
I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I do, man. Print off maps. Anymore, I've just started winging it.
Yeah, I mean, winging it can get you a long way, especially if you're already familiar with, if you read the module, or if you've already got like something. It's more like, instead of like you've got choice A, B, or C, but you have dominoes set A, B, or C, depending on how your players come across it.
Oh yeah, and one of my favorite things to do, my wife makes fun of me about it all the time, is when we're having a session and I'm like, oh crap, I don't have a mini for that. So I'll order minis. They'll come in either the day of or the day before, and then I'm rushing to get them painted. Yeah. It's total chaos.
Yeah, but it's what, seeing all that come to fruition though, and seeing people enact in like a world that you've kind of pseudo created for them to enact this character within. It's really, I find it incredibly rewarding. Even if I don't have like a proper mini, like for instance, this past weekend we did like a goblin-esque pirate campaign, like a one-shot. I had them go through, create their goblins, and obviously they built them on Hero Forge. We had them all printed. I have a good. I got a friend that's what she does. She's got her own Etsy shop, and that's what she does. So I'm trying to support her, and everything. But for a lot of the big bads that I'd created, I'll just use like, I don't know. I've got like as you can tell behind me back here, this is all, I don't know if you can see it. This is all different sets, and at the top row is all my miniatures and everything, and then plus I've got what's actually on the table itself. But for me, it's if I can convince them that this is what they're fighting, it's like, oh, okay, that's fine. But it's not like I can set a 6-sided die out there and be like, here's your great red worm, fight it. It's like, oh, okay. Well, it's like I should have prepared that. I feel bad whenever I don't have, for instance, be able to put them in a place to where I feel that they're enjoying it as much as I did creating the whole, like the terrain and the scene and everything, and just the build up of it and everything. You know, you write out this 2-page monologue and you're reading it from whatever note source that you do, and then you set the menu on the table. It's like, oh, that's a mind flayer. That's supposed to be a troll. Use your imagination. You're 35, damn it. Yeah. It doesn't always work out that way, but I've had to substitute and things like that at times, and it seems to work out really well. Most of the time, my players are more interested in just everyone getting together and having a good time. The occasional, spillover of just someone saying something ridiculous, and it just all goes to hell from there. I'll never forget, like, I found this really awesome monologue from Strahd, and I have a really good friend who is incredibly charismatic in real life, and I'm giving this big, monologue from Strahd. It's like, and tonight, we will dance or whatever. I can pull it up, but the point is,
yada yada something, man.
Yada yada something. Right. And I'm in the middle of that, and he goes, I want to stab him. You want to what? No, I want to stab him. Are you sure? Yeah. Because the thing the thing that I run into more often than not is like, they know that I've spent an absorbent amount of time preparing this whole situation, and I'm not just going to be an asshole and kill them straight outright.
Right.
But this time I did. But it's not necessarily, they had a cleric and everything, so, but his character essentially for pretty much the remainder of that session was a lifeless corpse laying on the ground that just got completely obliterated. But you can't necessarily, I don't know, how do you deal with that sort of, not necessarily that quote-unquote player, but if you're presented with something that you've took a lot of time to present and you want everyone else to enjoy it, how would you go about recovering from that, or how would you address that situation? Like, say if you had prepared something, you see everyone else fully engrossed, and you get that one guy that's like, hey, fuck that guy.
I don't know, man. Luckily, I haven't really had to deal with that yet. I have had them kind of stray away from what I wanted to do that session and what I had really planned. And all right,
give me an example.
Yeah. I mean, you got to try to find a way to kind of go full circle and come right back to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to put a character in their place. I mean, if they're trying to be that cocky bastard, man, you got to come down a couple inches. You know, so that's one thing to do. And you don't even have to try to kill them. You can cripple them and somehow, cripple their character to the point that
was essentially it. It was a charm spell followed by Strahd rips out your throat. You're bleeding out for however many minutes, knowing that there's a cleric there in the general vicinity that can be like, oh, let's just close that up and he's good to go. But it's right. I don't know. I really enjoy having those moments when you kind of try to give the severity or the intensity, so to speak, of the situation, and someone makes a fart joke or something,
right?
Something ridiculous. But how? Let's see here. Let me find here. Music, atmosphere.
100%.
Yeah.
I have to have it. Yeah, man. I'll just go to YouTube and I'll if I'm in a desert, look for desert wind sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the ones that's like 4+ hours. I love it.
Yeah.
There's actually at least for Ravenloft, there have been it's been easy to find those types of sounds.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually type in Curse of
Well,
Strahd
I was gonna
background
say,
music, and it's out there.
right. It's the same guy that also releases like the 3D maps for the VTT for like Death House and stuff like that. Yeah, I've seen that guy's work, and it's phenomenal. If I can, I'll put it here in the link somewhere. Um, it's um, it's almost like, obviously people they have their own levels of being able to immerse themselves in like a story,
Yeah.
but it's I feel like it's up to us as DMs to really carve that out, set that in stone for them to be able to act within and to be able to enjoy that space.
Right. Yeah, man.
Uh oh.
Overall, we actually do more theater of the mind type
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Um, I do have a lot of terrain. We use a lot of terrain, but it's mainly more for visual effects. I have set up entire towns, and we're not even going to have any kind of battles in town, but just to kind of give them an idea of what they're looking at,
Right.
and it's helped a lot. And for me, uh, being a DM and actually being somebody that loves tabletop board games. I love moving pieces around, and
Mm-hmm.
I paint all these minis. I got to have an awesome little diorama and stuff like that for them to run around on and make it look good. So why
Yeah.
not? Uh, but I love that aspect of it. If I could do everything, I would. But it's really not that feasible. But yeah, man, I agree with you. It's great to create worlds and visual effects for your players. It does immerse them. There's a lot of old school players that they don't believe in it. They'd rather just stay complete theater of the mind. And but
Yeah. This past session. Sorry, I've got to get more of the creme de la creme here. Uh, as Macho Man Randy Savage would say, "The cream of the crop, brother." Or is that more
right.
Hulk Hogan? I can't. One of the two. Either way, they're both awesome. Uh, this past last Saturday was my Goblin session, and it was more like I had the minis and like a general, like your standard battle mat laid out, gridded and everything, and I had like some minor 3x3s for wall separation and stuff like that, maybe like a tavern setup. But for the most part, I kind of just let them, uh, you know, push it along themselves. This was a weird thing for me because I had actually created a PC slash NPC to play in this with them, and I found that it's pretty useful to be able to have a playable character in that you can move the story around or like notice things without actually saying, well, all of a sudden you notice X, Y, and Z over here happening. It's like, but your character can be like, hey, do you see that? You see that guy over there? And what's he doing? We'll see. But just enough like a one or two sentence thing to kind of engross your players into kind of investigating further. But after that, the scene is theirs to describe. I had I built this brothel for them to act in and everything to kind of gather information on a potential target that has known to frequent the brothel. But I didn't necessarily have a space prepared for that. But I did have like some visuals and stuff that I could throw up on, in my room and stuff to kind of give them an idea as to like general layout, like an open face picture to
Yeah.
what they were looking at, and kind of have them. I could give descriptions of like the sights and smells and what they see and everything, and they were free to create that however they want. So I made the mistake, I feel anyway, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I left it up to a player. I was like, you see your target walking to this room with this person, and you crack open your door. I have them make the stealth check, obviously, just because, you know, DM stuff. And I asked them, I didn't tell them what they saw. I said,
Right.
what do you see? And he asked me in a, you know, like this sort of fashion of, you mean you want me to tell you what I see? I said, yeah. And then he gave the most appropriate response to benefactor what his character could do in the next coming moments to take advantage of that situation. But it turned out great because it was a thing of comedy, really. Like I essentially created this lizard folk that he wasn't on shore very often, so they had a minimal window to whenever they could capture this guy. The whole reason to capture this dude is because they were presented with a treasure map. The treasure map that they were, you know, that they had seen was crumpled up, burnt, faded real bad, and the guy told him, he's like, well, I know where it is in the map's entirety, but it's tattooed on another person's back. Cool. They had no problem killing this guy.
Right.
But when he opened the door, and I made it to where, you know, he had opened the door and seen this guy in a very, without getting too descriptive, in a vulnerable position.
Right.
For him to shoot a commoner in, you know, with 4 HP to kind of fall on top of this guy to give him a few moments to get in and score some critical hits. And it really was comedic genius going forth from that. It was just absolutely one of the, like, my characters felt like they were being mischievous as a goblin, and being able to go in and act all this and be successful against overwhelming odds, really, and kind of give them this self-satisfaction of, you know, I got that guy. And it's like, then you have to worry about the guy that owns the brothel, which I made a level 6 barbarian orc. You know, just this huge jack dude come in, chase him down. They're level 1, mind you. They are level 1. This guy's level 6 and a barbarian, and like he's got this just absolute massive axe that he hit my character one time. My character is unconscious, and they're like, oh shit, this is a bad day. So we have to escape. So they drug my near dead ass out the window. I take another death saving throw from the 2-story window fall. And they drag me into the sewer to get me out of there. But how do you, like, say, for instance, you have something planned, but you have to ad-lib something. If you have any good examples of that as to something you have planned versus an X, Y, and Z to do after your players have, so to speak, thrown it in a different direction. How do you handle that?
Man, like I said, I just kind of go along with it. It was kind of the story with the old bone grinder.
Yeah.
So the whole thing planned was they were going to go in for me. I was going to get them there. They were going to go in. They were going to see what was actually happening in there. They were going to fight these hags. Yeah, that didn't happen. They literally said, you know what, screw this. They locked the doors and set it on fire. I mean, and when I say set it on fire, 3 of them cast fireball.
Nice.
And
Very
they
nice.
absolutely destroyed this tower. And the only thing I was just thinking is that, well, this sucks because they shouldn't just be able to knock these hags out. So the way I ended up playing it because of this is the hags, where they have their the ethereal stones.
Oh my God!
They were able to get out because they crossed the plains, and they were able to get out of the tower.
Did you hocus pocus them motherfuckers?
Oh, I did. So they got out, and I was like, man, how am I going to punish them for this?
Yeah.
Well, I punished them by saying, well, you just watch kids start jumping out of the top of it on fire because, yeah, you decided to do something bad. And so, yeah, that's one of the ways that, I kind of punished them, which was funny because after they did that, they were all kind of distraught and they were pissed. One of the clerics, he went down to the kind of the Stonehenge area that was down there that had the bone pile
Mm-hmm.
and teeth in the middle of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And he started defacing these stones without making any kind of religion or history check on them.
Yeah.
And he started defacing these stones, and it come to find out that these stones were actually sacred stones for the good, and the desecration was the bones and the teeth itself. So,
Oh.
right after killing these kids in this tower, he's also defacing religious stones, and he's the one that's actually going down the path of madness because of this. But of course, and just to add insult to injury on it, man, I had, as they were down there, they looked back up the hill at the on fire tower, and the hags are just standing outside, just laughing at him. And then they, of course, walk over the hill. They run up to chase them, and of course they're gone by the time they get up there.
Yeah.
And of course, that wasn't the last time they seen these hags. I went probably 3 or 4 sessions without them even thinking about them. Now, funny story, and I will get back at that, is basically I like to make any events that happen, I like for it to be an organic sandbox, and whatever actions that they make, I want it to have some kind of repercussions.
You're more reactive to what they are saying, like what they would like to do, versus
Right.
I've got this planned for you. Or I'm sure as a session, as a total encompassing thing, it's like, well, I'd like for them to get to here tonight. And then,
Right, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I try that, but it doesn't always happen.
I know.
You know what? But the good thing about that is, I'm partially ready for the next session. So.
Right. Yeah. That's just it. It's a great thing. I truly enjoy that aspect of it, being able to sit and watch everything kind of unfold. It's from what my understanding of Dungeons and Dragons is as a DM, you tell the story. The players say what they would like to do within that current situation, and then you use dice as probability, and then everything else is just kind of juggling.
Yeah, man. There's different types of DMs. There's different types of players, and talking about Critical Role. One thing we got to keep in mind about Critical Role, it's a show. It's for entertainment.
Right, and they are actors, professional actors.
They are actors. They have a story. Is it scripted? I know people like to say that. I don't think it is, but I will say that there is kind of a set point of we need to get here, we need to get to there, type thing. And but some people like that narrative and like to play into that narrative as a player. They like to build that story. Other players just like to kill shit, man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I mean, they could care less about it.
My players is like homeless guy on the street. I'm going to stab him and take all of his, it's 3 copper. Just because my familiar crow is going to bathe in his blood. Whatever. But, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, I lost the sound. Lost your sound. Uh-oh. I got visual, but I can't hear you. Okay, hold on. Wait. Can you hear me now? No, can't hear me? Nope, can't hear you either. Let me just close Discord here, folks, and then we'll go back into it. Can you hear me now? Nope. Oh, I heard something. You there?
Didn't.
Aha! Here we go. This has been amazing, dude. I absolutely, I love this.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
I can, man. I have no idea
Awesome.
what happened. That is so strange.
It's probably Discord. I would like to say it doesn't have anything to do with living in a rural area for myself. Given that I've got a maximum total of like 50 megabytes per second download.
Same, brother.
Yeah.
Honestly, my internet here sucks, and it's supposed to be absolutely amazing. So,
I know the feeling. But typically, how long do your sessions last, man? How long are you um, entertaining these folks?
6 to 8 hours.
6 to 8 hours.
6 to 8 hours and about a handle in.
That's pretty impressive.
So yeah.
So let me ask you this as one fellow partaker to another. Uh, how do you go about making sure that you don't over partake in that particular situation?
A lot of practice.
Yeah, a lot of practice helps.
A lot of practice, man.
Yeah, my liver is pretty much callous. Like I go every 3 months just to make sure. It's like, is my liver good? It's like your liver is a badass. It's like, okay, this is fine. This is great. Let's just move on. This is fine.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I like taking. I don't drink heavy every session. I do like to take a couple of shots here and there.
I do.
To kind of get loose, and then
Mm-hmm.
I've had some sessions, man, that we've definitely drank quite a bit, but I don't know. It seems to go okay every time.
But we were talking about Matt Mercer and Critical Role and that sort of headspace.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Just as a DM, you can easily go along with your players and just let them do whatever and just referee, more or less. And also, you can help build a story if you have a narrative that you're wanting to push. You can push it. That's what's awesome being a DM.
Yeah.
And a few minutes ago, you were actually saying too about using characters to help push along the story.
Yeah.
DM played characters.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm a DM forever. It seems like I want to play a character so bad, but I don't get to. But I love being a DM. I do. So having that character that you get to play kind of fulfills that missing void of wanting to play a character. And. I absolutely love that. I get behind that. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll ask you this. I've been put on the spot having to create some character names, and I'm gonna tell mine now. But my group will absolutely they love this name because I don't know. I would say I was 3. I don't know. Whatever you would consider this deep. Right. And they asked me, it's like, well, what's this guy's name? As far as creating names on the spot, I had like a full list of I don't know, I like to use Skyrim names just because I feel like they're fitting in a D&D setting. My inebriated ass.
Now screw that list.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Well, wait, I have a list there?
Yeah. I created this NPC, but his name is Harfelbarg.
Yep. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. So, immediately after stating this guy's name, my players, all 8 to 10 of them at the time, just start bursting out laughing. It's like, Harfelbarg? What the fuck is a Harfelbarg? So I was like, that's what you get. That's what you're not in my seat. You don't understand. But what's one of the best, I say best, quote best NPC names that you came up with?
Oh man, I'll be honest with you. I don't come up with any on the spot. Most of them I do have lists that I draw from. Mm-hmm. But one of the funniest things I did this one off in a kind of Egyptian desert type setting. So I decided that I was going to pull names of characters from the Indiana Jones movies,
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
nobody caught on to it, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went through I went through the IMDb cast listing and just
Yeah.
full of names and put my
That's
list back
awesome.
there. Yeah, it
That's
was awesome.
great.
It was awesome. I tell you, that night, I think I drank about 2/5 with another one of my players, and
Yeah.
yeah. But what was so bad about that night was one of my players decided to break the game on me.
Yeah.
I'm sure we've talked about
Oh,
that.
is this the druid? Is this the
Oh yeah,
druid?
it's the
Yeah.
Raptors one.
Oh, okay, okay.
Uh,
For
yeah.
some context here, folks, for those that don't know, apparently druids. What was what was his subclass? Was it the?
I don't remember what it was,
But
man.
anyway, you can look this up on YouTube. It was one that allowed them to summon. What is it? 8 raptors.
It's eight of basically what they kind of want, what they can pull from the area or whatever. But now, raptors are one of the most broken ones because they can basically get 2 attacks, and
Yeah.
if you use any kind of pack mentality,
Well, I was gonna say they have pack
pack
tactics too, don't
tactics,
they?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, any kind of flanking. If you use those kind of rules, man, it totally destroys everything
Yeah.
because you basically have 16 attacks, all with advantage. Um, yeah, in one go, it's pretty sick.
Yeah.
Basically, if you want to see what it is, just go to Google, type in "how to break D&D," and it's probably one of the first
One of the
builds that
top
comes up.
builds next to like
Yeah.
the what is it? The paladin sorcerer build. Since both of
Oh
the
yeah.
spellcasting modifiers use charisma, like you can twin cast Wrathful Smite or whatever, just for some absolutely
That was
absurd damage.
that was definitely one of the nights that I had worked a lot, pretty hard on a awesome mummy encounter, a greater mummy encounter, and they made very quick work of him, mainly because
Really?
of the raptors. Well, they played it a little smart. They kept running away from his line of sight, which kind of destroys a mummy big time, and the raptors just ate him up.
Yeah.
So I mean, there was not much to it.
So,
But yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, do mummies have like a lich type quality to them? Or are they like a frightening presence, or something? What kind of CR monster are we talking about here?
Uh, Gosh, I think those greater mummies are like a
I was gonna say I've got D&D Beyond here. Let me pull it up.
they're either a CR7 or a 9 or something like that.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
let me see here. All right, here we go. We got a mummy lord.
Yeah,
Well, there's a
that'd be a
bunch. Okay, let's look here. 97 HP. Definitely. Okay, here's the thing that you're probably talking about. Dreadful glare.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The mummy lord targets one creature it can see within 60 feet of it. If the target can see the mummy lord, it must succeed a DC 16, which is nothing to shake a stick at, especially because most players, unless you're playing like a cleric or a druid, you're not going to have that wisdom to just throw at it. So, saving throw against this magic or become frightened until the end of the mummy's next turn. If the target fails the saving throw by 5 or more, it is also paralyzed for the same duration. A target that succeeds on the saving throw is immune to the dreadful glare of all mummies and mummy lords for the next 24 hours. That is absolutely disgusting, though.
Yep.
I mean, if you pull that off on, like, just say anyone who takes a glance at it and they all fail the. Well, I mean,
what's scary is actually even the normal mummies have that ability.
really? Well, this one's
Oh, yeah.
this one's even got legendary actions here. Attack, blinding dust, blasphemous word, channel negative energy, whirlwind of sand, and not to mention it's a 6th level spellcaster with a +9 to hit with spells. Wow,
Oh yeah.
that's pretty impressive. And they have lair actions.
It doesn't matter against 8 raptors.
So, how many clever girl puns did you make in the process?
There wasn't no clever girl. I was pissed. I was
Yeah.
extremely mad.
Ah, man. You know,
But it is what it is.
it is what it is. Like
I've had them break the game on me multiple times, so yeah, it is just what it is.
if I had to give a similar experience, my ancient black dragon was my epitomal version of uh, bringing forth this majestic, beautiful, cynical, evil thing that I took a lot of time and love to prepare, and to watch it get destroyed in 3 rounds of combat against 12 players, I might add. So, for those of you who are playing D&D 5e, what is it? Combat, or yeah, action economy
Yep.
kills dragons rather quickly. Even if the dragon
8
has or 8 raptors, 8 raptors. So keep that in mind whenever you're building an encounter. It's like, well, if you have a plethora of players, even if you're experiencing only, if you only got 4 or 5 players, you can still, there's only so many actions that you can take in between those rounds of players, or in response or reactions, that can really put a hurting on something that you took a lot of time to really build up for them. But if they manage to figure that out versus just the way the game's set up, that's one thing.
Yep.
However, if they, for instance, Google search what's the most broken thing that you could possibly do to your DM, it's like that's another thing entirely. But the one thing for my inexperience of using an ancient black dragon is I did not use the lair actions till like midway through the fight. I had this beautiful set piece and everything, and I had pulled it all to like this centralized location around some ruins in a swamp. Black dragons, they like to ferment their food, they like to watch it rot before they eat it, consume it, whatever. I'd set up all these different things. So I didn't know that lair actions share the initiative turn of 20 in a rotation. If I had known this at the time of deploying this, this dragon that I loved, like the lore and the background and everything so much of, that would have been very different. But at the time, it's like, oh, they're going to really enjoy this. And at the end of the 3 or 4 rounds, which, mind you, fighting one singular black dragon, an ancient black dragon, took them almost an hour and a half to 2 hours to fight. Right. I didn't have any other minions in there with them or anything like that, but it was quite the thing to watch them fight between, I'm not exaggerating, 12 players. Yeah. and that alone is enough to, I just don't, and they weren't even high level. They were level 6, level 7, nothing really too crazy powerful yet, but in that space of action economy, a lot of them now having 2 attacks per turn and a bonus action.
Yep.
We're able to really put a hurting on it real fast, and I failed a lot of the recharge effects for the dragon breath and things like that. But it's just one of the things, like, if you all are planning these encounters out, it's always good, because something that has lived that long and has had that many opportunities to manipulate or to learn about the world itself, they're not going to be out there just making themselves all proud and everything, unless it's a red or unless it's a blue. Right. Black dragons are sneaky as shit, and they like to eat, just the most disgusting things in the world. They're incredibly vile and incredibly deceitful, and they will not get their hands dirty unless they absolutely have to. So just something to keep in mind.
One of the things about encounters, especially with 5e, that I've noticed so far is I've watched very, very clever characters destroy challenge ready monsters that are well above their means
Yeah.
uh, in a matter of 3, 4, or even 5 rounds.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that to be very engaging or even correct the way it should be.
Yeah.
So what I find myself doing a whole lot of times is I'll take a monster and I'll have kind of an idea of a low hit points
Hmm.
according to the way the fight's going, and then I'll have like a maximum amount of hit points.
Exactly.
And this kind of goes around the whole idea of floating the dice too.
Yeah.
Uh, is I might start a boss out or an encounter out with something having like um, I don't know if it says it has 90 hit points in the book,
Hmm.
I'll go like 180 hit points. I'll go ahead and
Yeah.
just double it
Double
up
it.
front.
Just double it.
And if it seems like the fight's going bad, I'll drop it back down. If it seems like they are absolutely destroying it, I'll double it again.
Yeah.
But not to that extent. But
Right.
the thing about it is,
It
I
has to
think
be
that
fun to fight.
yeah, it's a little unbalanced in my
Yeah.
opinion. The very low hit points on a lot
Yeah.
of things, it just doesn't make sense to me.
I
Uh,
think I think a lot of it boils down to from what I've experienced so far is you can have this entity or this the story build up to a climax of a big bad, and if you do it strictly by what's laid out, most of the time, if your characters have done their research and looked into their classes and stuff, they're going to know the ins and outs of, well, what can
yeah,
I do to get the hell out of Dodge, or how can I avoid this or that? And whenever they're fighting, it's I prefer the Darth Vader meme myself. It's like I'm altering the stat block. Pray I don't alter the stat block further. You know,
right.
insert here on the screen. Uh, it's but even still, if you have something that's considered like a quote unquote meat shield, I had like a defender paladin against a group of characters that I had that I asked them. I was like, I want you to create this evil bad character, and you're currently being held by this temple of paladins to receive judgment. And so they had this big focusing lens in the center of the temple. They brought the evildoers up. The sun came across, focused the lens, and a lot of Bahamut essentially just blew whatever was standing in that place to shreds. Long story short, had some usurper, Oathbreaker Paladin push one of them off as they were, obviously they created the bad character, but one of them was a bugbear, which bugbears are pretty nasty. If you have the opportunity to look into their stats and stuff on D&D Beyond, they are quite the opposing class whenever it comes to outright melee combat. Um, but I essentially stuck them. If you've ever played Dark Souls, have you ever used like the doors or like a big shield or something like that? Just kind of essentially to present yourself as a wall. It's like you're not getting through me, and I
Yeah,
have this insane pool of HP to pull from.
yeah,
This defender or like guardian oath paladin had somewhere in the neighborhood of 120 natural hit points with lay on hands, which is not to quote World of Warcraft terms, gave them an additional 70 on top of that. Not to mention their own healing, their high AC. The only way how I could have made that fight interesting is that the paladin did not have dark vision, and that everyone else who was involved did. I had a dimly lit room. I had 8 sconces on the wall,
hmm
and I only put forth like the light within that designated radius of 15 feet. So as they gained ground towards their momentum of getting all their gear back and everything, they would have to extinguish one of those sconces, which is great. The first uphill battle, once they got over that initial hump, everything just kind of kept getting easier. But I don't feel as though they enjoyed that fight as much as if I were to just turn them loose in a well-lit room filled with minions and guards and all that for them to actually start taking the action economy to another level. Which, I don't know. I guess from my perspective, anyway, as a DM, and it seemed more to me that it was more of drudging through mud versus, you know, having a V8.
Yeah.
You know, going through mud and then just listen to the engine purr the entire time. All the meanwhile, you're throwing mud everywhere.
Which we all have those sessions. We all have those nights, man. I mean, you never know what's going to happen.
yeah. You know, and I kind of, it just seems like no matter how much you plan, you can always have that particular scenario happen. It's like, I really wasn't expecting to do that. Well, this looks good. Let's put that in there. I don't know. I tend to be more reactive in my DMing approach versus, I have like a general outline. It's like, in this space for tonight, let's plan for 4 to 8 hours, and let's have them see where they can get. All in all, whenever you plan a one shot like that, it's supposed to be an encompassing thing. In that particular situation I was telling you about, it was a while back, but I had them pick a monster out of the monster manual, and I said, set up your lair or your big bad, and I'm going to send 3 adventurers after you to see how this will work. And they enjoyed that more than it was the scenario I created with them, with the paladin and everything like that.
Yeah.
So I would actually step out of the room, so I would have to be reactive to what they had set in front of them. It was like a reversal of roles, but it turned out really well. I can't imagine it going like that all the time, but it seemed as though it was a nice change of pace and stuff, especially whenever you got something with high AC and it's just there to be in your way. To be in your way, it's not as fun. And I probably won't use that again.
I like the idea of trying to get everybody involved with being a DM, because I think a lot of players, if they've never done it before, don't understand the pain that we go through and the planning and kind of what we have to deal with to keep the game running and to keep them happy. And like my group, we've had 2 of the guys run a couple of things. My wife is actually interested in running a one shot sometime. I'm interested in that. We have a guy that in our group that's been playing D&D for like 20 plus years, and we all keep trying to get him to run a game. I know that he would run probably one of the most epic things ever. But we just can't get him to do it. So
I mean, it's an investment, man. It's a lot. It takes a special kind of person, in my opinion, to really put forth that kind of effort to setting everything in place. It's I don't know. Like if I'm going through, and say for instance, as of right now, I've been going through Dragonlance. I'm listening to the first book. It takes place in Kryn. And to listen to everything from point A, B, or C, or D, and I'm able to go through the story and kind of ascertain what was probably going on at the table at the time, and how they wrote down everything versus, the DM's actual interpretation as to what they had planned, which is great because I can see that, but I don't know if people from a player's perspective can see that.
Yeah.
I really encourage it because it is such, if anyone has like a creative itch whatsoever to be able to sit down, it's easy for someone to create a character. It's like, oh, well, yeah, I created this character. I want to make this mini. Great. Terrific. it's another thing for them to sit down and be like, well, I'm going to imagine this world, but using this setting, and I'm going to use these guidelines. I'm going to try to do all this research and everything. It's like writing a college level, uh, paper citing every single source, or or preparing for whatever the teacher or the professor may come at you with, regarding that. It's I tend to worry more about the critique of what I prepared versus their experience as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a great thing to actually see a good session come together, and for everyone to actually be like, that was great, man, good time, and everyone sits around and talk about it for weeks waiting on the next session. That's one thing.
Yeah, man, we've had some sessions that after it was over with, that everybody was just so excited.
Yeah.
I think I've only ever felt great after maybe two sessions, but
Yeah.
everybody seems to have fun.
That's me. That's
I was
me.
like, yeah, man, it was awesome, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, total shit, but
Yeah.
whatever.
And I think as being dungeon masters and things like that, we kind of put like a little bit more of an expectation on ourselves. It's like, well, and not going back to the Matt Mercer thing, because that's what he does for a living, versus, well, I work 9 to 5. I've got X amount of free time, not to mention the things that might pop up on the spot, versus, well, X, Y, and Z, kids, wife, whatever, sports, whatever. And you come into the space, it's like, it's almost, if I had to put it in the words, to be able to sit down and have that full space to be able to be creative, it is the most rewarding thing I think that anyone can do, and I highly encourage it to anyone who is a player, that takes stock into the things that they do and the things that they like to do as a character player, to be able to flesh out and go through. Even if you're part of being a DM is going through, finding a setting that you enjoy, something that you're passionate about, and just kind of throwing it to the wind. Like, say, for instance, my Pirates campaign, you can have like an Assassin's Creed type adventure, or you can have Pirates of the Caribbean, or in my case, if you're truly, if you know, then you know.
Okay.
Muppet Treasure Island, son.
Oh yeah. Okay.
The black spot. So it really is a terrific thing to be able to set in that space and have that creative freedom. Versus, I played a lot of video games in the past and everything, and they all hold a special place in my heart, but none of them have quite given me that freedom to be able to sit down and to flesh out something that I think other people would enjoy, much less take part in. Like,
yeah, I gave up video games after I started playing D&D.
Same.
Rarely ever play any games.
And it's just a really, really big part of my life now, and I'm super happy for it. I think I'm better. I'm better for it now than, because video games, it's all subject to, what your constraints are within the video game. It's like in Skyrim. It's like, well, this guy said this thing to me. What's the matter? Someone's super sweet roll. I'd really like to shoot an arrow into his face. Well, there's some consequences of that. You get to a certain point to where you lay out A, B, or C to your players, and they choose X, Y, and Z, and there's this whole organic integration of storytelling, collective storytelling, in such a way, problem solving, that just comes together in such an amazing way that it rivals, dare I say, any book that can come to any sort of recollection. It's in a story, you can kind of see, it's like, well, I kind of see what's going on. It's like we have this, anyone who's ever studied English studies or anything like that in some sort of degree can be like, okay, well, we have to have some conflict here, or else it's not going to really kind of push the reader along, blah blah blah. But in D&D, you know, you have this guy here that's going to sit there and tell you as to what happens, even if it's something that you had planned to do.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it. It really is a great hobby, and I highly suggest anyone who's ever, if you've been a player in the past, that's great. Look into DMing. If you're someone who has like a creative spirit, jump in there and, go to your heart's content, and you will feel rewarded for doing so. I'm a firm believer in that.
I'm telling you, man. I have AD&D real bad. ADHD.
ADHD. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, man, dragons everywhere. But I've had a lot of hobbies over the years, and I'm one of those people that will get a hobby, do as much research, buy everything for it, do it for a little bit, move on to the next.
Yeah.
Once I got into D&D and painting miniatures and crafting things, it almost has consumed all of my free time that I don't, what I don't negate to the family and work. But I love it. I haven't switched to another hobby in almost 4 years now, and I don't foresee myself switching to any of those. I got a stack of gray over there that needs painted, and I don't think I can do that in the next 30 years. So
I understand that.
Yeah, man. Once I got into it, I just can't stop. I want to build things all the time.
Yeah.
I've got so much built that I don't have any storage for it now, so I don't know what I'm gonna do.
No,
I got ideas for other things.
Yeah, well, 100%. I mean, it is literally. I think, as not to get all philosophical or anything, but I think people as a whole, we have, only recently been introduced to scientific knowledge, mathematics, whatever, but human beings as a whole, we've always been storytellers.
Yeah.
It's been something passed down. It's like, well, my mother told me versus my grandfather told me versus this, and, slowly leading up to where you get like an organized front. And it's like, well, you know what? It's kind of boring. I kind of want to make up my own shit and see what people do within that. And it's like, it's a really, really fun, inspiring, and a great thing. I guess if I had any other notes here to really ask you, what's your advice for new DMs or people wanting to pick it up for the first time?
Prepare. Prepare to fail.
Yeah.
And prepare for your players to do what you don't want them to do, and try to figure out a way to overcome that. Outside of that, just do it.
Yeah.
You can't be scared to jump in. If you're scared, just jump in head first and see what happens. That's what I did, man. I actually didn't finish telling you earlier the way that I actually got into D&D itself. After my buddy invited me over to play that night, I went up there and I borrowed his player's guide. I was fumbling through trying to create a character, come up with something half-assed. Played that night. It was terrible for me, but I loved it. But it was terrible in hindsight. But he told me, he's like, yeah, man. He's like, there's a website called Hero Forge. He's like, you can go on there and you can build your character and you can have it printed and sent to you. And I'm like, wait, you mean I can go create my character on there and it'll come to me and I can paint it? So I did that and I got it in, and we have craft paints here. So I sat down and I painted it, and I was like, I'm gonna have more. So I went online. The first website I found, supplier of minis, was Reaper Miniatures.
Yeah, Reaper.
So I ordered a couple packs of goblins, and I painted all 12 of those goblins up. And from then on, I've sunk so much money into getting my setup, my painting set up, but once I got everything there, it's a very cheap hobby.
Yeah.
But in all hindsight, that's how I got into D&D. Was the miniatures pulled me in, and then he also mentioned to me, he's like, man, he's like, hey, have you ever looked in the Ravenloft? He's like, I think you'd really like the horror aspect. And I was like, no. He's like, well, you should run Curse of Strahd sometime. So I came home that same night. I ordered the box set of the DM guide, the monster guide,
Yeah.
and the player's guide, and ordered the Curse of Strahd module. And as soon as I got it in, I sat down and I started planning it out. I haven't played in a game really since. Uh, so literally, I played in one short game
Yeah.
and then jumped right into being a DM, and that's kind of where I've been,
Yeah.
ever since there. I've played here and there and a
Yeah.
few one-offs, but
Well,
uh,
let
yeah,
me tell you. Once Dragonlance gets released, I will be running that. Like if I can, every week, if not bi-weekly, to be able to set that setting. Because from what I've read from the book so far, it is absolutely incredible. I think it is a good start. Dragons is in the name of the game, and not necessarily that's necessarily what you have to throw at your players all the time, but you know, I just think that they're a classic enemy, and they deserve their own place in that space. So, what's just touching up on a few other things here before we call it quits here. What's your favorite class?
oh gosh, favorite class. If I was going to play
If
something,
you were going to play, yeah.
it would definitely be probably a Battle Master fighter.
Oh, I
Uh,
have
that
I've had some experience with the Battle Master Fighter.
that would probably be my pick. Yeah.
I took it a step further, and I'm sure you thought about this as well. But I went very human for the Polar Master,
Nice.
and the fourth level feat also Sentinel, and that was the other campaign that I was talking about earlier on in the cast here. Um, I find it incredibly um, rewarding whenever you're in that place. It's like I'm going to keep you at 10 feet at all times, and you're not going to be able to get close to me.
I just like being that battle commander almost. And let's be honest, fighters can do an
Oh
insanely
yeah,
stupid amount of
yeah.
damage. So
I was thinking
yeah,
at level 6, I managed to have everything line up in a row, but I was also um, in like I was multi-classed into a warlock as well, but I was also using hexblade
yep.
warlock. So in one turn with a hexblade, green flame blade, and all that, like 80 some damage. I like level 6 or 7, something absurd. And like everyone at the table was screaming. It's like, no, no way. No way you just did that. It's like, oh yeah. Yes, I
Oh
did.
yeah.
Yeah. That's probably one of the funnest experiences I've had in this game. But if you don't mind, tell me what is one of your most memorable D&D moments.
Oh gosh.
If you had to pick like one that stood out over top of everything else that was just completely crazy.
I have a lot. Actually, one of my favorite things was we were running a campaign called the module was Night of the Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, okay.
toward the end of that campaign, it puts your players in a hard spot. Essentially, you have your players in a town square and an endless army of zombies ascending upon the town.
Mm-hmm.
So they're given a choice. They could either go and destroy the source, or they can stay and fight the endless wave of zombies. If they stay and fight the endless wave of zombies, essentially their resources will be ran out and they will perish. So that night was really awesome, because they ended up going to the kind of the final boss of everything, and it was an excellent fight. Everybody came out victorious, but at the end, most of them had either died
Hmm.
once and were trying to make their death saves, or they were very low on hit
Oh
points.
man,
So
that's
but
all.
and also it was one of the most creative ways that they took the boss down is they figured out that he's a caster.
Hmm.
They're just going to tackle him and
Yeah.
just wrap him up. They wrapped him up, man. And if you have any kind of uh, as a spellcaster, if it takes any kind of movement whatsoever and your hands are bound, you're done for.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the situation that we
Hmm.
were in, man. And they were able to take him down fairly quick. But it was awesome. One of the coolest things about that fight too is that he had an aura that after a certain amount of deaths, after a certain amount of saves, it pretty much just killed you
Yeah.
right out, and that was awesome. But yeah, that was probably one of my most memorable. The last session we had, we actually fought a greater air elemental, and that fight was amazing.
Yeah.
It lasted forever, and it was good.
Yeah. I've yet to use elementals at my table, but after hearing your testimonial about them, especially the air elemental, that's definitely going to make an appearance.
Oh, here's a good one for you. Air elemental in a desert with the sand.
Hmm.
It's pulling up the sand in in its vortex, and if your players use fire on it, just have it do a little bit of damage to it, but also it turns the sand into shards of glass, and it ends up shooting shards of glass at them. Or if they get picked up in its whirlwind, because it can move in the same space, and then it throws them away if they miss
Oh,
a
that's
save.
disgusting.
Double
That's
the amount of damage or something. It's awesome, man. You can do some wild stuff that way.
that sounds awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
it'll teach them to use fire against basically sand. You can do the same thing with sand golem almost, but whatever.
so I guess a couple more questions here. Role playing and acting the part.
We
I
do a lot of role playing.
I tend to reference either, and my players have given me shit over this in the past. They say either one, I either act like Michael Myers or Shrek, which by playing World of Warcraft, it's a
Right.
thick accent. It's like okay, this man likes to do what he's doing, but I cannot, for the life of me, do a female voice without some sort of verbal repercussion from someone else. I've tried, and just to be able to look at someone who's literally sitting 6 feet away from you and be like, "What's up?"
Oh, man. Yeah, we do a lot of role playing. My players actually enjoy the role playing part of things. Voice wise, there's only so much you can do with a thick Eastern Kentucky accent.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
true.
yeah, so I try my best. I've been actually going through watching some videos on some dialects and stuff, see if I
Yeah,
can. And of course, sitting here practicing them, I'm just kind of like I'm looking around.
yeah.
Uh, there ain't nobody here except
There
for
ain't no
me,
one
and I'm
here.
embarrassing myself right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I've been there
so
myself because
yeah,
I don't know. It's like a different thing. It's not necessarily from an actor's point of view or anything like that, but you want to put yourself in that moment. It's like, please, I need your help, good sir. Whatever it is. It's like, oh God, I just did
I think it
that.
sounds great, man. Yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
listen to that all day.
See,
Uh,
that's why we do this.
oh, hold on, I got to put an order in.
All right.
Oh, never mind.
Good man.
Thank you. So, yeah, when it comes to role play, we definitely love the role play.
Hmm.
Voices, I try my best. One of the things that kills me is I've watched. I can't recall any of the names. I've watched a lot of sessions and stuff online. Especially, I've actually watched some of groups that's been playing for like 10, 15 years, man. And I listen to them, and instead of having an actual dialogue, they're like, "Well, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna try to ask this woman for a dance, whatever, right?"
Yeah.
And instead of saying, "Hey, would you like to go dance with me?" to the person or the DM, and the woman replying back, they're just like, "Yeah, well, she says blah blah blah." I'm like, for me, I don't. I don't like the he said she said.
Right. There's
not going into Limp Bizkit song, but
don't do it. Woodstock '99. If you haven't watched the documentary, do it. But go ahead.
Seriously, I don't like that aspect of things. I would rather see the role play.
I would too.
I do use the, they just do whatever.
Right.
And, that's usually I get into that point when my players starting to get me really annoyed. I'm just like, whatever, I'm done with this shit.
Yeah.
But the role play's awesome. Voices, I do recommend if you're going to be a DM. And you're going to get into the role play thing, go out there and try to do research and try to learn how to have some of the accents, some of the inflections and the voices. But don't be hard on yourself if you can't do it. Do your best. Hope to God your players don't laugh at you too much.
Oh, they will.
And
regardless, if there is that one guy in the group, it's like, all right. Fucking Mike Myers, whatever. It's like, all right, whatever, Shrek.
And this might be a good point too to go ahead and make it this time.
Yeah.
Is we've talked about Critical Role. I like Critical Role. I enjoy listening to Critical Role. It's awesome. I enjoy it more than any other of the sessions I've ever listened to.
Yeah.
But I can say that the Matt Mercer effect is a real thing.
It is real.
It is, and trying to model yourself on to him is okay. Don't expect yourself to be that great because he's amazing.
He is very amazing.
Also, don't bring into your group the think that you are going to your group is going to play out like Critical Role does. Those guys have been playing. They have a narrative. Like I said, they are a show.
Yeah.
And those people are paid actors. They know how to do things, man. They can carry on a story. They can carry on dialogue without any issue whatsoever. And the everyday Joe can't do that.
Right.
So I think there is a lot of people that try to do that, get disappointed, and they're just done with it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's one of the things I could say is go out there, watch a lot of people, do your research. Don't expect too much out of anything, especially your first couple of sessions.
And that's the thing I've tried to tell the people I play with and everything. It's like you have people that are fully immersed in everything that's going on, and then you'll have a conversation between two people. It's like, oh, forgive my friend, he is incredibly slow. If you know, then you know. And then you got like, do you have rope? Right. Then you got the guy over here on the other side of the table. It's like not saying a damn thing about anything. It's like, yeah, I go up to the shopkeep and I want to get the best deal possible. Okay. It comes down to like the dice rolls and stuff like that. But everyone's here for virtually the same reason. It's to have fun and to enjoy having a separation from quote unquote life, if you will.
Yeah.
But Josh, I thank you for spending this time to come on here and talk to me and everything. Tell us how we can find your profile and everything, as far as if you have a Twitter or if you have a TikTok, if you have a Facebook, a YouTube channel. I'll be happy to link all that in the description.
As of right now, I just got a TikTok, ratpaintsminis.com.
Okay.
Or ratpaintsminis, not .com, but ratpaintsminis on TikTok. And that's about it. I post stuff on there every now and then. I like to get more stuff on there. So
Well,
And
buddy.
hope soon we'll have some sessions on YouTube. So
Well, I really look forward to that. I admire your quality as a DM, and I think whoever else is looking into DMing and stuff like that should most certainly, once that content starts to become available, to look to you to be able to kind of ascertain that. And not to mention, later on in the video, I will do my best to link as much content from your Facebook page as possible about the minis and the Ravenloft. Um, I know it's something that we didn't get into a lot of this particular session, but next session, which we will have another one.
yeah, sure.
uh,
Yeah.
I would like to get into the crafting portion and as to what you use and uh, the medium as to which we all choose to craft our castles,
All
uh,
right.
landscapes, and everything. The good old XPS foam from Lowe's or whatever.
XPS. Yeah,
Yeah,
XPS is king.
yeah. There you go. XPS, get you a hot wire knife or
Mhm.
a knife of some sort. Cut that stuff out, and you can create some marvelous stuff, as I'm about to show in the mini montage starting. Well, after this exit. Josh, thank you again, brother.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me, man.
Yeah.